All right, let's get straight to business. This is the only correct top 25 hip hop album tier list that there is of 2024. This is the vinyl wall. You may or may not be able to see the Schoolboy Blue Lips album on the wall. Might not. I'm really not sure. I can't tell. I've already turned off the camera. I don't know if you what you could even see, what you cannot see. But that album is on there, so you can only assume that if it's one of the 30 albums on my eclectic vinyl wall that includes Logic, Travis Scott, J. Cole, G Herbo, Denzel Curry, Kendrick Lamar, ASAP Rocky, Brockhampton, Red Veil is up there as well. You probably can't see that. Larry June. In fact, this exact album that's on my screen right now. So if Blue Lips is up there, you can only assume that it's probably in the top three for sure of 2024. Now I have a pretty exact breakdown of how I like to do this. I do it on a points scale. So there's 5 different categories. The first category is consistency. If it is a 15-track album, can I get through front to back? How many skips is there? That's consistency. The next is the power of the best track. So if there's an album where I think the album's like really good front to back, but there's not a ton of fantastic songs. Like that's I go back to, that scores lower. Meanwhile, there could be an album that has a lower consistency, but has some really high score in the power of best track, or just how many of the tracks that I really enjoy off the album. The next one is creativity and story. What does the album mean? For example, a album like Vince Staples' Dark Times is a bit more creative. It has a bit more of a story compared to another album that might have a lower score in that. The next is then lyrics. So what do the lyrics mean? How lyrical is the album? How much of it do there, of course, there are albums where it's not all about the lyrics or it's not all about the story, but that's where the consistency could come in. That's where the production comes in, which is the final category, is production. So it's based off of those 5 categories that I do a 1 through 10 on, and then that's your rating. So, for example, if I have an album at an 8.6, which my 10th ranked album is an 8.6. That's my version of an 8.6. That's what an 8.6 means to me. So basically, the only albums that are on my vinyl walls are albums that are above a 9. So there might be an album that you think is a 10 out of 10, for example, and it might be a 10 out of 10, but for me, it's a 9.2, just based off my rating, because the only way it's a 10 out of 10 is if it's on everything. There could be a fantastic album. Like, let's just for example, on my vinyl wall, let's just say, I don't know, like Bobby Tarantino. I don't know if you could see that. It's like that's a really good album for me, but it's not a 10 on my rating scale because probably doesn't have the best lyrics. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10 for lyrics. Maybe the consistency's not a 10 out of 10 either, but it's got some great tracks, some great productions. It's fun, it's exciting, it's a great Logic album. So maybe that's where that comes in. Also, this is the shirt of choice. It is Travis Scott with Peter Griffin. So let's get into it. The only top 25 list that does matter. I'm going to give you my honorable mentions that did not make it. So, Big Sean's album, that's 28th on my list. Mavi, it really moved up. I think Mavi really had a great album this year, but it's 29th on my list. Alchemist solo track was good. Gangery by Alchemist and Oh No, that was a good one as well. Lupe Fiasco Samurai. For me, there's like Samurai is one of my favorite tracks of the year, right? And I like Palaces as well, but it's just the rest of the album for me. Same with Still Don't Trust You and We Don't Trust You. I think those albums have some great tracks on them, but the album itself isn't my favorite. Larry June's album this year, Lil Dicky's album this year, A Boogie's album. Those are some of just the honorable mentions that didn't make my top 25 list. So we'll go through it from 25th all the way to first. So in 25th place this year is going to be Hatton Garden Hold Up by Rome Street. So for me, this was a 7.2 on my rating. Now, keep in mind there are some albums that are going to have a higher rating, but it could be low on the list just because I didn't fully like use my rating. Like there could be album a 7.6 could be higher than a 7.4, maybe just because of the impact of the album, for example. So this was an album where I really only cared for a few songs: Cadillac Smoke, Sage, Jimmy's Headband. Protro was good as well. I Reap What You Sow is good too. Rome Streets is one of the best guys out there right now. Derringer is a fantastic producer. So really, I wouldn't say I was like disappointed with this album at all. It just didn't have as many heavy hitting tracks that I come back to. When I look at this, the highest points that I gave on this was production wise and then power best track. So yeah, production was really good on this album. Otherwise, it really wasn't too crazy of an album. But the first one from Griselda. The next one is Ransom. Now, if you guys know about Ransom, I sure hope you do. This album came out earlier in the year in March. Yeah. So this album was actually in like the top 10 for me for a while until maybe the summer when some other albums came out. But this one's a 7.6 for me. This is really just a short album, but if you don't know anything about Ransom or what you should know about Ransom, he's a lot like Rome Streets, where it's just there's no wasted time in any of his verses. Really like 488,000. Like a lot of these tracks, they're just not getting enough plays. Like And One, it's a fantastic track, and it doesn't even have 100,000 on it. So like, I feel like people are really missing out on Ransom and his lyrical ability. I gave the production on this a 9. I give the power of the best tracks a 9 or 8. But this is just a really well produced album. Some of the songs like Wilson Fisk and Magic Men, it feels Egyptian. Like Ransom just has great albums. Ever like Unreal, that's a great single that came out this year. Chaos Is My Ladder has some great songs. Him and Conway. I don't believe that's in my top 25, but you get the idea. It's too short of an album, but it was really good. Immaculate Concession, great song as well. So that is 24th is Ransom. We're going to continue this kind of vein of this kind of production and just kind of style of rap, and it's going to be our very next track from a Griselda-like artist. And Boldy James released three albums this year, and they were all in my top 25. The first one, the lowest one that I had rated, was his album with Harry Fraud, which is going to be The Brictionary. This is the one that he most recently released. Yeah, November 22. Fish Grease is a fantastic song. Cecil Fielder, fantastic song. Pillar to Post is great. Really, the production on this is really fantastic. But I just feel like it was probably the weakest out of the 3 he released just because it didn't have as much of a story. Especially the one that I think was the best that he released this year. It had a great story. This one to me was just very consistently good, but the creativity was a bit low. The lyrical material wasn't the greatest, but production was absolutely fantastic on this. Harry Fraud, Boldy James, they really locked in and did their thing. And Fish Grease is a song that is in my rotation every day. So I post my songs of the day on Instagram. And every time I post a Boldy James song of the day, he always reposts it and likes it and reposts it on his story. So I think that's always really cool that anytime I posted him, which has been a few times this year, he's always there to repost me. So I like that. I don't have like a super popular Instagram or anything, but it's really cool that he does that. That doesn't have any impact on the ranking because he's 23rd in this case. But this album's a 7.8 for me. Fish Grease is one of my favorite songs of the year. Next up is going to be an album that I thought would have been higher on my list, and that is Ab Soul Burger. So this one came out recently too. November. It really, it had a lot of strong suits. Starting off with 9 Mile, the only issue for me is that we don't get into the Shook Ones instrumental until 4 minutes into or 3 minutes into the song. It's a 4 minute song. You don't get into the beef of the song until the very end. I didn't like Payday, didn't like all that. California Dream is a great song, you see. You'll notice I have songs that I have added. California Dream's one of them. Don Julio with Fresh. Fresh is one of the best guys out there that's underrated. And Saudi Sweets. Squeeze First 2. Like, those are great songs. Righteous Man's a great song. Saudi Sweets it's a different sounding song. It's actually, now that I look here, my favorite song on the album is the one that's the least played. Well, actually, that's not true. Righteous Man is. His second least played. That's usually how things work with me. I really like how that was. But overall, I feel like it lacked in heavy-hitting material compared to other Ab-Soul projects. Project like Herbert, where every song really means something. That's not what this album feels like to me. There's a lot of skips on this album for me. The consistency was actually the lowest rated portion of this album for me compared to the rest, which I gave 8s across the board. So Ab-Soul's Soul Burger is a 7.8. Like I said, I have my critiques. People might think this album is better than what I have it, but it doesn't make it into the top 20. If I sip on this water a lot, it's because I'm getting over being sick. So deal with it. Next up, 21st. This is a great album. It's a great album. It's a funny album. It's Johann Sebastian Baklava the Doctor. Action Bronson will say anything. And that's what I love about this album. The production on this album is interesting too. Like, it's a lot of Alchemist production. NBA Leather and NBC is Alchemist produced. But it's very different. If you haven't heard this album, I highly recommend at least listening to it. It's only 30 minutes. He talks about Tiana Trump on the Splash here. Norsa Thug is a great produced track. Tito Nomo, great. Salvage is very, it's like 8-bit sounding. Compressor is a great song if you like Larry June's style, which I do. And Doctor, to me, is the best song. It's got a great message to it. So really, this is exactly what this is an Action Bronson style album. This is what you expect from him, but it doesn't lack the lyrical material, and the production is fantastic on it. If I look back at my rankings, I have the production at 8. I have the lyrics at 8. I have the Power of the Best Songs at 9. So this album for me is a 7.8 on my list. You know, Action Bronson to me released a better album than the likes of Big Sean, than the likes of Ab-Soul, than the likes of Kanye with Vultures 2, even though that wasn't a great album. Like, this, to me, it's a different sounding album, and I think you have to take your time with it to appreciate it, if that makes sense. So that's the 21st album on the list. We're getting through this, guys. You can skip through if you want. Like I said, you can tell based off the vinyl wall and stuff, or you can kind of see now what I like to listen to. So my rankings can be different than your ranking, of course. The next one is going to be another Boldy James album. This will be the second of his 3 projects that he released this year, and this one is going to be, let me head over to the albums here, Across the Tracks. His album with Conductor. This one, once again, this is a short one, 26 minutes. Terms and Conditions, great. The production on this album is very high treble. Like, a lot of the songs are heavily percussed, and they're very samples that are kind of like that. You know, this kind of Terms and Conditions. Like, if you're talking to EQ scale, the album's over here in terms of the treble. Like it's very high pitch, this album. The Old Switcheroo, it's got trains in it. Off-White Lumberjack is a great song. Stamps and Milk, great song. Permission with Double D is probably the best song on this album for me. Undisputed, it's a trap song. But his flows on this album are great. There are a few misses for me, but really, and specifically All Madden and probably Lampshade, I think, maybe Undisputed. But like Flying Trapeze Act, there's some chill produced songs in here, and his flows are very laid back when they need to be. In terms of this album, you could play it front to back easily, and I do it multiple times every month. This one's been out since June as well. This is the 20th one on my list. We now jump into the 8s. So this is an 8.0 for me. The production's a 10 out of 10, which is the first 10 that we have in this list since we started from 25, obviously. I gave it an 8 for consistency, a 9 for the power of the best tracks. The creativity and the story is really what drags this album down, where it could be higher, mostly because they all kind of sound the same. He's not saying too much. It doesn't have a story compared to his other album, which now you know that Penalty Leadership is going to be the highest ranked album for Boldy James this year for me. That, for example, is an album that actually has a story. It talks about his crash that he had, and he talks about it on multiple songs. So this, to me, this is a collection of 10 great Boldy James, or at least 8 great Boldy James songs, and 10 songs that Conductor really produced incredibly. So that is the 20th on the list. The next one is going to be one that was number 1 on the list for a while because it came out in January. This is the first album, I believe, that I put on my list for the year. Yep, January 12th. And it's American Dream by 21 Savage. This one is rated an 8 as well. All across the board for this one, this is a solid album. Of course, this is definitely the most popular one we've done so far in terms of streams. Red Rum was, a banger, but it's not on my list. I didn't love it that much. All of Me is a great song. Never Have I Ever is a great song, I think. Nina, a great song. Otherwise, a lot of these, like Shoulda Wore a Bonnet, Prove It, See the Real, like those aren't for me. I really like Red Sky. I really like Dark Days. I know I didn't save them. But to me, the only thing that drags this album down is the filler. To me, otherwise, this could be up there with I Am over I'm Greater Than I Was in terms of like lyrical content. That is you can't see it because it's over there. But I do have I Am Greater Than I Was on my vinyl wall. To me, this album felt like it could have potentially been up to the level of that, but it really missed out on a lot of the other options. But in terms of some of the best songs in 21 Savage's discography for me, Nina, Dark Days, Red Sky, All of Me, that's on this album. So a really solid effort from 21 this year. He's 19th on my list of albums. The next one is a controversial album, and it is The Death of Slim Shady. This one is also rated at an 8.0. It's a 2024 Eminem album. There are some good songs. There's some skips. If you kind of just go through it, a lot of these are meh, 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 meh. Fuel, great song, great JD verse. Road Rage, I kind of like how that song's about like people being overweight. That's basically what the song's about. And to me, I think that's pretty, like, it's a cool concept for a song. Houdini, like, look, I liked it. I like the interpretation of Houdini. Guilty Conscious 2 is the song that I go back to the most out of this entire album. I probably play it at least once a week. A few of these, like Somebody Save Me, it's an impactful song. Otherwise, a lot of meh and a lot of miss, but you still can't deny the fact that Slim Shady in this case. I really like how the skits were as well. It felt like a put together album for the first time for Eminem in a long time, which is a big deal. 'Cause he's definitely not back to what he was, but this at least felt like a callback to the past where there were some skips, but you do have some really cool songs. And Guilty Conscious 2, like I said, to me, it's probably the best one on here. I put it at a 10 for lyrics, a 9 for creativity, but then 7s across the board for the rest, which puts it at an 8.0 and puts us 18th place. Next one, this one might be the most popular out of any of them that we've done so far. That's Chromacopia. To me, I have it 17th. Now look, I don't hate Tyler the Creator at all. I think Igor, fantastic album. To me, this album's just overplayed. It's overhyped. It's not as good as I think it could be. But maybe that's because it just hasn't grown on me. Or it's just not for me specifically. But I'm also not denying that it's a great album and why people like it. You know, like I said, I have it 17th on my list. So, Hey Jane, to me, is a great song with a lot of meaning. Judge Judy, same situation. Great song, a lot of meaning. Same thing with Tomorrow. Same Chroma, great song in terms of that. I really liked how the message of this album, the story of this album, which is why I had the story, that I had it as a 10. But to me, the actual songs itself, a lot of them, besides the few that I mentioned, were just not for me. I didn't care for the sound. It's not something that I put on at work or in the car. I said it's nothing against this album or Tyler the Creator in specific. I really love the message of this album, but it just didn't. It's just not for me specifically, which is why I have it at 17th. If this was an album that maybe found me better, I don't know if that's how to explain it. If it was an album that I enjoyed the sound of better, maybe is the way to put it. Maybe it's in the top 10, but the message and everything and the stories, that puts it 17th at least. So that will be Tyler the Creator at 17th place for me in terms of album this year. The next one is Corday. I'm a big Corday fan. Now you might be able to see on the vinyl wall, I have The Lost Boy on my vinyl wall, and somewhere else I have from a Bird's Eye View. It's right there. So I have his 2 albums on my vinyl wall. I'm a big Corday fan. This album is definitely not at the level of those 2. It's an 8.0 for me. I rated it a 9 in terms of Power of the Best Song, 9 in terms of lyrical ability, 8 in terms of creativity, and then 7 for production and 7 for consistency. So Pray is my favorite song on this album right here. I also like Back on the Road. To me, I feel like a lot of these songs kind of sound the same. Like, they either sound the same or it's just not as great as a version of other songs that he has in his discography from A Bird's Eye View or from The Lost Boy. Or for The Lost Boy, sorry. A lot of these either sound the same or they're like, where they're not a great, fantastic song that you play, but they're definitely a good song. Like, there's a lot of these songs are good. They're solid songs. There's nothing wrong with them at all. I won't really skip them when they pop up in my Spotify daily mix, but none of these besides Pray and maybe Back on the Road, like, jump out at me as like a top Corday song, if that makes sense. So I feel like this album, I expected it to be higher than 16th on my list. Like, there's some guys that when they release, I expect that they'll probably end up in my top 10 of the albums for the year, because I do this every year. I thought Corday would have done that, but I just feel like this album missed on having 3 of those songs that I just really enjoy and play every day. But a lot of these are kind of just good songs that don't fully get across that line to me. I think maybe people that have listened to this album can also agree with that. Next up, we're now into the top 15. It's right there. We might delete it later. Not the video. 7-minute drill. Might delete later is an album that, is it even an album, or is it a mixtape, or is it something that, like, this wasn't the J. Cole album that we expected this year. The J. Cole album we expected this year was to fall off. But to me, like, this album came out and I thought it was pretty good, and then I kept finding myself coming back to these songs as the year continued. And when it came down to it, in terms of like songs that are like I've played Like, this album has a ton of them. Pricey, I really like Pricey. Crocodile Tears is in like my top 50 songs that I have in terms of plays this year, according to Receiptify.com. That's a site that like shows you your stats. Crocodile Tears is on there. Huntin' Wabbits was on there. Sticks and Stones was on there. Pie was on there. So like, to me, like, this album is kind of forgettable, but also like it has some of the songs that I've played the most this year. So I can't deny that, which is why I gave it a 10 in terms of power of the best songs. Lyrical ability, I give it a 9, but the consistency is a little bit lower. The story's a bit lower. The production's a bit lower, but overall, these are great J. Cole songs. Trade the Truth into Ibiza, great produced song. A lot of lyrical ability. Pie, lyrics are great in that if you want to hear a great written track. And then Huntin' Wabbits, Crocodile Tears, and Pricey. They're kind of just great songs to listen to when I'm in work or in the car. So that's why this album is also ranked at an 8.0. And it is 15th on my list. Maybe I probably expected it to be a little lower, but actually gets in top 15 because it's actually got a lot of solid songs on it. So now we're going to go to somebody, or actually a couple now that aren't as popular, and that is fellow YouTuber. Is it not going to pop up? There we go. Scrapyard. Is this a hip-hop album? I don't know. I'd like to consider it a hip-hop album just because that's kind of what he has. It's experimental hip-hop. And it's Scrapyard. And I have it at an 8.0. The creativity on this one is a 9. The power of the best songs is an 8. How do I explain this album? Think of a guy, a lot of this is self-produced. Think of a guy that kind of just finds sounds, finds instruments, and puts them together, and it turns to a great track. So you kind of get everything. Texas Blue is like a song, if it's a feel-good song, it goes back and forth with him and Kevin Abstract. Guide Dog, it's a light, like, easy listening to song. You Try the Thing Very Human, it's a piano, it's hard to hear. But then you have Guess Who, and that's like a trap song, and it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite Quadeca songs. It sounds so good. The bass is so good. You Don't Know Me Like That. Another one where it's just, now we're into the trap song. But then we get to a song like What's It to Him. And if there's a song I want you to listen to off this album, it's this. Because this kind of sounds like the Beatles if they made hip hop. Like the chorus and everything, like, it's just amazing. Like what this album brings you in terms of just different sounds. Even if I tried, great. Pretty Privilege, great. Dust Cutter, great. Like every song sounds different, and every song kind of feels like a different genre too. And like I said, you just, like, when you listen to What's It to Him, and there's there's huge noises, and then it's like it's the Beatles in the beginning, and it's rock in the middle, and it's hip hop in the verses, and then it's just a big noise in the end. Like, that's just one song. So like, to me, this album really could be higher on my list, but this year was a great year for hip hop. So that's why it comes in at 14. Also, it's because it's, like I said, not exactly a hip hop album. It is, but it's experimental. Highly recommend you at least listen to What's It to Him and Guess Who. Like, fantastic album. This is a great album. I love it. Next up is another guy that doesn't have a ton of listens, and he's former Brockhampton man Amir Van, and his album was Woof. So this one has a lot of like vocal inflections. This is definitely the least popular album out of everybody on here. As you can see, not a single song over 100,000. I was actually like in his top 1% of listeners. So there's a lot of like deep voice in this album. But Good Boy, for example, like this is a song where he's kind of like a dog. He's like the kind of thing in the song is like, I'm a dog, but I'll be good kind of thing. It's like the chorus is like a singing chorus. The production's light on it. Medicine is, it's unique sounding like drums. It's definitely like hip hop. It kind of feels foreign, if that makes sense. Medicine's my favorite song on the album. Just like listen to Medicine if you can, just because, like I said, I think it's a unique sounding production, and the way that he flows on the song is great. I really like how his voice sounds on a lot of these songs too, because a lot of the times he'll be higher pitched or he'll be lower pitched. And a song like Medicine, he goes in between both, with the production. So kind of imagine foreign sounding production with different vocal sounds. Like, it's really good. I have it as a 8.2. I have every score is an 8, and then the Power of the Best Songs a 9. So like I said, production 8, lyrics 8, creativity 8, consistency 8, and then Power of the Best Song 9. So a couple lower and guys in terms of popularity, Quadeca and Amir Van, that are 13th and 14th into my list. So now we're gonna head over into, we're halfway through this now, and this is the 12th best album for me, and it's You Only Die Once by Freddie Gibbs. So the meaning of this album is he's kind of having a talk with the devil. It's pretty cool how he goes back and forth with that on songs like Cosmo Freestyle, where he's actually talking to the devil. Wolverine sounds a lot like a song on Soul Sold Separately. I like the production of Steel Doors. I like the production of Origami on the set. It's a song about like Diddy and all those kind of things. It's great. Rabbit Island is great. It's got a J. Cole diss in there as well. Wolverine's probably my favorite on this album. I notice I don't have any of these saved, which is interesting, because I listen to this album all the time. But On the Set is great. Probably the best song between On the Set, Wolverine. Like I said, this is a album that it's 34 minutes. I definitely recommend that you listen to it from front to back. Just like I said, he's having a talk with the devil, basically. But if you're going to play these songs in one-offs, really a lot of these you can do. And there's not a single song on here that I don't really care for, which is a great thing. I have it as a 10 in terms of Power of the Best Songs, 9 in terms of lyrical ability. For production, could be better on this album, but otherwise I think it's a very well produced album. It's an 8.2 on my list. I would have expected Freddie to maybe be in my top 10, but that didn't happen, of course, this year. So 12th place it is. Now, the next one, a trap album. My favorite trap album of the year, it is Hardstone Psycho by Don Toliver. It is ranked 11th. It just barely misses out on my top 10. I got it as an 8.2. This album has a lot of great songs on it, and that's why it's so high. The consistency, I had it as an 8. The story and creativity, a 6. The lyrical ability, a 7. Like I said, not going to get that out of this album as much, but production I have as a 9 out of 10, and the Power of the Best Song I have as a 10 out of 10. Lot of great production, a lot of fantastic songs. Kryptonite, Tore Up, these are two perfect Don Toliver songs. Bandit's a great song if you like that. 4x4, just the production, the flow on it, it's great. Deep in the Water, that's one where maybe it's a bit more lyrical. Same with Last Laugh. So like, I feel like you get everything out of this album. My favorite song is either Purple Rain, 4x4, maybe Tore Up. But I feel like you get everything out of this album. When you have a song that just comes in your rotation, like Purple Rain, I never skip that. I'm not going to skip Tore Up. I'm not going to skip Bandit. I'm not going to skip 4x4. I don't listen to this album front to back. Maybe that's why it's not in the top 10. Because I actually don't think like this is a great album to listen to 1 through 16. Because I definitely think there are some skips. But in terms of like hard-hitting songs and songs that are really good, this album has a ton of that. And it's one that I find I listen to Don Toliver every single day. So he just barely misses out on my top 10. And maybe this is going to be controversial, but my 10th ranked album is Vultures 1. Now hear me out. Geez, 24,000? It's terrible. Hear me out. That's why, because this is the wrong album. Vultures 1. Vultures 2 is not good. Besides River. Vultures 1 has some great songs. And I don't care what people say. King is one of my favorite songs of the year. I just love how that song feels. It feels like he's the king. Problematic, it's not the best mix song, but the production on it's great. Him and Ty are great. Beg Forgiveness, the production on it, it's great. It's 6 minutes. It builds, and it builds. I think it's great. Carnival, can't deny that it was one of the songs of this year. Vultures didn't care for. Didn't really care for a lot of these other ones besides Keys to My Life. I thought Keys to My Life was great, especially the kind of bridge in the end with, I can't remember her name, but the way that, you know, she was singing into that. Back to Me was cool with Freddie Gibbs as well. I like Burn as well. So, I mean, people can hate on Kanye for sure. But, like, in terms of songs that are really good off this album, there are certainly a few of them. And I think that's what kind of ups that value for me. Where I thought the lyrical ability or lyrical parts of this album, in parts, not at all, but in parts, were good. And I like the production of this album. And then, of course, there were some heavy-hitting songs in here. So that is 10th on my list. Now, you can hate me for that. Oh, well, because maybe you'll like me for this next one. Or maybe you don't even know who this guy is. Jay Ski's Testament of the Times is my 9th ranked album of this year. Look at these streams, 6,007. How do some of these songs, the fact that I have like maybe 50 of these on some of these songs, wow, I didn't realize this album was so underplayed. This is an 8.6 for me, 9 on consistency, 9 on Power of the Best Songs, 9 on production, 8 on lyrics, and 6 on the story and creativity. If you don't know who Jay Skis is, he's part of the label with Kanye, The Machine. They do a lot of albums together. And to me, this one, it really hit with me. Like, I really liked how he sounded. Cement Fours with Coda, that's a great song. 13,000 streams, that's crazy. Cantonese Characters, like I said, Rome Streets is great. If you want to hear a hard-hitting song, do that one. Subi Tags, great. Like, I'm really surprised this album isn't as high up because the production is very Griselda-like. It's very Conway the Machine-like. It sounds a lot like maybe something Boldy James would rap on. But I like Jay Skis doesn't always have the best rhymes, doesn't always have the best lyrics. But to me, this album, he does. And I highly recommend that you at least listen to a few of these songs. Sign of the Cross is a great one as well. Because this one, to me, is just as high quality as any of the Griselda albums that are out there right now that have been released in the last couple years and such. And I didn't realize it wasn't getting as much play. I was actually thinking about getting this one on vinyl because I like it so much. There's not like a theme of this album at all. Each track kind of has a different lyric, like, you know, story and such. But there's a lot of a good punchlines, a lot of good one-liners, a lot of good lyrics that kind of tie in to each other. I'm not doing a great job of explaining this album, but you get the idea. Just think of a high quality Griselda-like album that just isn't getting as much play as it should, and it's number 9 on my list. Then this is the final, not Nicholas Craven. Well, we can go through it for him, whatever. All right. I'd rather do it through Boldy James, though. Sorry. Geez, I didn't realize Super Tech Mobile was so popular. All right. Penalty Leadership is my highest rated Boldy James album of the year. And I believe this is, no, it's not. Well, it sort of is. Is it the last Griselda album in the list? I don't know. But it is 8th on my list. This one came out early, January 12th. This one came out the same weekend that 21 Savage did. I remember listening to this album. I was in my living room on the couch with the headphones on a like Sunday at 11 p.m. Very, very, very reminiscent of when I'm recording this video. Just not the date, obviously. And I remember listening to this, and he just sounded so crisp. And the beats sounded so good, but he was so crisp and in the pocket on these beats. And this album has a very prominent story, according to the album cover. This is also my vinyl wall. It's up there. You might be able to see it. It's the one on the very top left, above the Schoolboy Q. I didn't actually see it. There's 2 albums from this year on here. So the 8th best album of the year for me is one that I got on vinyl. It's because I feel like I needed a Boldy James vinyl. This is an album about his accident that he had when he crashed into a semi. And for example, in the first 10 seconds on Formal Invite, he says, "How rich am I? I can still hear the shocks from the brakes on the semi." And it's like, that's how you start off the album. Like, oh, I'm rich. I'm a rapper. Yeah, you know how rich I am. I still had PTSD from the brakes of the shocks from the semi. And like that's how he kicks off this album. So it's like, if you're gonna listen to a Boldy James album, if you want to listen to an album that has a lot of story, listen to this. A song like Speedy Recovery. This is another one where he talks about his accident. In the beginning, he's telling Nicholas Craven, the producer, he's like, I feel pretty lucky and blessed. I mean, considering. That's kind of how he starts off that song. So almost all these songs tie back to his accident. And Brand New Chanel Kicks is one of the best singles that he had of this year. All My Tokens, it's like it kind of sounds like rock, a little bit of guitar production. Early Worms Get Birds. That's kind of a cool song just because it's usually early bird gets the worm. But no, the early worms end up getting the bird. So it's kind of about that, how you put yourself in bad positions sometimes. No Pun Intended is another great song. That was one that I posted that Boldy James reposted me on. Evil Genius is another great one. He's just in the pocket in that song. It's a very low produced song, and he's just in the pocket on that. But yeah, this to me was his best project in terms of just songs in general, but also just in terms of the story. I gave it a 10 on that, 9 on creativity as well. So let's get into number 7. This is probably the most recent album, and it is G&X by Kendrick Lamar. To me, it's Kendrick's weakest project, not because it's the newest. Maybe it's better than Mr. Morale. I don't know. I still go back to Mr. Morale a lot. But to me, this album was probably too California-like for me. I like Luther a lot. I like Man at the Garden a lot. Reincarnated and Heart Part 6 are my 2 favorite off of this album. I like I said, I also like what he did too, bringing in guys like AZ, Peso, Lefty, those kind of guys that have got a lot of eyes in this album. To me, it's too short, 12 songs. And then there's too many songs where it's maybe not a skip, but it's just not like a Kendrick song that I care to hear for. So if you want to know how I rank this, it's an 8.8. The Boldy James one was an 8.8 as well. I have it as an 8 for consistency, and then a 7 for production, and then a 10 for the power of the best songs, a 10 for lyrics, and a 9 for creativity. Because yeah, you can't deny this album has some creativity. You can't deny that the lyrical content on songs like Heart Part 6 or songs like Reincarnated, this is one of the best written Kendrick Lamar songs that's out there. Same with Man of the Garden in terms of the writing in that. Like I said, Luther sounds really good, but to me, it's short, and then there's just songs that aren't at that high enough level for me. This isn't an album that I can play front to back, and the only other Kendrick Lamar album that I can't do that with is probably Mr. Morale. But the other 4, including Section 80 even, like those are albums you can play front to back. I don't think I can play this one front to back. Even like Whacked Out Murals, like it's a good song, but I just don't feel like listening to 5 minutes of that all the time compared to a song like Heart Part 6, Reincarnated, where I'll listen to that song every time and won't skip. Dodger Blue, like I said, good song too, but it's just not at the same level as other Kendrick Lamar albums. So it's 7th on my list. I definitely thought if Kendrick released this year, he would have been higher than 7th on my list, but I just gave you my reasons why. Next up is 6th. This guy's not as popular, but he should be, and it's IDK, and it's Bravado plus Intimo. This was a album that like kind of shocked me a little bit. I really like IDK. Is He Real? IDK and Friends, F65, Simple. You See For Yourself. If you look at this, he kind of hasn't missed in a while. And I really like how there's two sides to this album. You can tell by what it's highlighted off here. It kind of tells you like a song like this is where it's both sides. So I really like how that is in terms of creativity. Also like the way that he has like people narrating the album. So like a song like Hello, people are narrating the album. A song like Switch, there's like a narration in the beginning until you get into the song. Switch is a great song. See You Again, great song. Supernova was one of the singles. Great song. Really, all these, Adenum, it's a super good, like, chill hip-hop song. Celine in the Trap samples Kanye West on that, the song where he's with Travis Scott. Oh, my, what does he do? And it's the one, it's off of Birds in the Trap. He does the sample. We in the House. That's what he was like. We in the House. That's in the song Celine in the Trap. Also, each song kind of goes into each other. So this, for example, is a 12-song album where, just like Kendrick's was 11 or whatever it was, this one is one that I can play front to back, and I do a lot. There's no skips on this album. And there's a lot of songs that are really, really good for me. It is a 8.8 on my list. I have it as a 9 for consistency, a 9 for story, 8 for lyrics, 8 for production. It could have been in my top 5 maybe if there was more meaning to some of these songs. A lot of these songs are just really well-written songs with a lot of great lyrics, but maybe not as hard-hitting as something even like the Boldy James, like we just said, like Formal Invite, or Boldy James, Speedy Recovery. Like, I feel like maybe this album misses some of that emotion, even though what it's going for is kind of this two-sided thing. Maybe it's missing some of that, and that's kind of maybe my, negative of the album, so to say. But really, this is his best project, and my opinion. I share it to people at work about, hey, have you listened to this album yet, kind of thing. And it's got like at least 5 songs that are in my rotation on a daily basis. So that's 6. Now it's time for the top 5. Top 5. All right. Now, I guarantee you at least one that's in my top 5 is probably one that maybe it's a guy you not even heard of, and that you should. But it's not this guy. Because number 5 is Mac Homie. This is his album about Haiti, as you can tell. I call it Rich and Haitian. I know that's not what it is. But for the sake of the YouTube censorship, we're going to call it Rich and Haitian. This is an album that came out early in the year. It came out on Haitian Independence Day or Haiti Day or something. This album has a lot of skits that are in French Creole, which you definitely have to at least like look at and read it one time. Holy is one of those. What's the other one? Xerox Clot with Haitian Jack. That's one that's just a song that's like, it's just a skit. It's just them talking in Haitian Creole or French Creole. Talk about an album that's all over the place. For a song like Political, it kind of sounds like 70s like disco, hip hop. Padon is then like, it's a deep Griselda like cut. Sur les ponts d'avion is one of my favorites off this album, if not my favorite. Sur le pont d'avion in French Creole means under the bridge, or like the French bridge. It's basically his take on a Haitian song for the kids that they do. It's like one of, like a song when you're grown up in school, like the Itsy Bitsy Spider. It's that version, but it's for that. So he does that, but I really like, he kind of sings on it a little bit too. It's pretty cool. Copy Cold with Black Thought is just a great song. At the end, it talks about the bad situation in Haiti. Rich and Haitian it was a single. It's Kaytrana and Greedo. It's exactly what you think, but it actually sounds good. And then Lon Lon is up there with Sur le pont d'avion for me, just in terms of songs that are my favorite. It's an easy listening to song, and it's the most like commercial maybe on this in terms of his sound. It's a very Griselda-like sounding album. I really like the meaning of this. I really like the message of this. This album got taken down on Spotify at a time, and there's a whole thing about it because of the whole thing going on with Haiti. So it really means a lot. And this is his album to Haiti, sort of to say. So I feel like you have to listen to this if you're a hip hop fan, and it's one of Makami's best projects. It's definitely up there with Pray for Haiti, which is another great one that you have to listen to. Definitely a few skips on here for me. Otherwise, it's an 8.8 on my list, and it's number 5. All right, number 4. This is a lot of people's number 1 that are in the hip-hop community, and it's Dark Times by Vince Staples. That's a really good album for me. In terms of songs that I go back to on a daily basis, Black and Blue, Government and Cheese, Shame on the Devil, and Radio and Freeman. I really like how Radio sounds. It sounds like a radio song in the way where like he samples a radio station, and the hook is kind of a radio station. Freeman, it's got a great beat on Freeman. Songs like you have Liars, where it's a skit where a lady's like, hey, I love you and everything, but you're going to lie to me. I know you're going to lie, and I'm going to lie, and we're not all great people. And that leads into the song Justin, where it's based off a relationship where it's about lies kind of thing. Shame on the Devil is a great written song as well. Government Cheese. This song is just about like, hey, love your child, but don't forget to smile. Don't lose your child. Don't lose me. Don't forget to smile kind of thing. Black and Blue. It's probably the best sounding, the best commercial song on the album. This is it. Like I said, the album's called Dark Times. The cover is dark. It's a dark album. It's a deep album. It's not easy to listen to. I feel like you have to be in the right mindset to listen to this album. It's not like incredibly sad or anything, but I feel like you really have to listen to it. You have to sit down on Genius and go and listen to the lyrics of all these songs. Like I said, the hook on Government Cheese is just saying, don't forget to smile. Don't lose your child. Don't forget to smile. And then that just like leads into Shame on the Devil. Like I said, Justin and Liars. But then, like you said, you have some really good sounding songs like Radio and Freeman and Black and Blue, Little Homies. All great for me. This is a 9.0 on my rating. I have it as a 9 for consistency, a 10 for power, a 10 for story and creativity, a 9 for lyrics, and then 7 for production. Just because I feel like not every song is super like great with production for me. Maybe it doesn't hit as much. But really, there's not a single song on here that I don't enjoy, which is why it's number 4 on my list. All right. This is the one that I was telling you about earlier where I said maybe people don't know about this guy. I'm actually interested to see what the streams look like because he is pretty popular. Here it is. It's Eric the Architect. And the album is Never Have I Been Here Before, or I've Never Been Here Before. This came out in like March or something, February. Okay. So let's talk about this album. Okay, it's actually got some good streams. So this is a 9.0 for me as well. An 8 for consistency, an 8 for story, but then a 9 for production, a 9 for lyrics, and a 10 for power of the best song. So when this came out, I had only heard a few singles from Eric the Architect before. I didn't even know who he was. And I played this album and I was like, oh, okay, this album's actually pretty good. But then I came back and played it again. And I played it again. And 2-3 Zone, it's just a really good sounding song. It's a good song for the car. Parkour is a great song for the car. Man Villain this was actually in my Spotify Wrap. This was my #1 song of the year in terms of songs I listened to. So the third best album for me, this one right here, I've Never Been Here Before by Eric the Architect. This was my #1 played album of the year, and my #1 played song of the year was this one right here, Man Villain. I don't know how to explain like what maybe this album sounds like. It kind of just sounds like a lot of like soul and hip hop based albums that are out there. It doesn't sound like an Alchemist album, doesn't sound like a Derringer album. It just sounds like a lot of the really good, like I said, maybe it sounds like a Freddie Gibbs, like the production wise, a Freddie Gibbs or Event Staples or Schoolboy Q or like some of Corday kind of thing. That's kind of what the production on this is like. Ezekiel's Will, it's got George Clinton in it. I mean, come on. And then my favorite song, maybe my favorite song of the year, is Liberate with Layla Hathaway. The vocal backing on this song, A1, crisp. It's fantastic. He says something along the lines of, you're a favorite rapper, but your rhymes saying, how could we be family when your mammy and your sister are ugly? I love that part. That's one of the lines from this song. Liberate. I'm gonna go ahead and load this up here. I spelled architect. No, I didn't. We're good. All right. How you my family when you're a sister and your mammy ugly? It's just harsh to my emotion. I escape from hood habitat. So flee Jordan's break him in like car thieves, kind of thing. Time ticks by 6, 7, 8. That's kind of like so. Time ticks by 6, 7, 8. That's something that was like repeated a lot during this album. And then, like I said, he says it at the end here to end. This song is also like pretty like a religious song too. Making your own business is truly a bizarre dream, especially when your school doesn't have a basketball team. Kind of things like, hey, he's coming from nothing, kind of thing. So it's a song where it's a long song, but there's actually not a ton of like lyrical portions into this song. But otherwise, it's a great song to listen to. Leukemia and AM is another great one on here. If I could maybe load up the lyrics to that. I'm going to spell that wrong. We're spelling it all wrong here. It's all right. But you get the idea. Yeah, you see, suffered depression was caused that I was skinnier. Looking back, I barely ate, but you're tearing me up, kind of thing. Now you're back on the market. Like, had to shake the residue because my new girl don't deserve it. The chorus is great. And then AM's great as well. That gets into the second half of that song. This is a great album. It's got so many great songs on here. I said Man Villain was my #1 song of the year in terms of plays. 2-3 Zone Parkour, great songs to listen to as well. All right. And that was a 9.0. Time to get into the top 2. And here's number 2. This guy is my favorite artist, and it's Logic. Maybe you would have expected that from me. Based on my vinyl wall, I have The Incredible True Story on the vinyl wall. I have Bobby Tarantino on the wall. I have Under Pressure on the wall. I have Vinyl Days on the wall, and then I have one of his mixtapes on the wall. This is an album that, hey, maybe some people think it's a corny album. Oh, it's Logic. He's biracial. He came out of retirement. Oh, well, you can't deny how great this album is. It starts off with a 9-minute song off of a beat that feels impossible to rap on, and that he just raps on with a super fast flow for 9 minutes. Not 9 minutes because there's skits and everything. It's also about the incredible true story. It's the prequel to that as well. I didn't really care for Mission Control. Deja Vu is just fade away. Fear is cool because it's a dance track. Favela, I really like Favela because it was laid back and it's about a Call of Duty map. And I play on Favela a lot. Gardens wasn't my favorite. Ghost in the Machine. A lot of Logic fans know this song because this was the snippet that we had been waiting for forever. And it features Robert Ivory, where if you watch the documentary of this album, that's a guy that he found on his Discord. And he actually put him on later on in the album too. Ade is someone that's also on his mixtapes. Interstellar, anytime there's a song with Lucy Rose with Logic, it's going to be good. In retrospect, I really like how that sounds. I like the guitar. 44 Forever didn't really care. Love Me didn't really care. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a great song. City in the Stars is a great song with Ivory again. It doesn't really sound like City of Stars, but it's a feel-good song. The lyrics on this are great. Thank You for Believing Me is another song where he kind of just sings about people thinking to believe in me. And then the reason this album is maybe so high on my list is because of Teleport. And we're going to bring that up here, if we can. All right. So besides the z part of this is a song where he's talking about his past and he's teleporting into new things. And we're going to talk about this final fourth verse because this is, if you haven't listened to this song, you need to listen to this song because he is going so fast when he is rapping about this. And this fourth verse is basically just his entire life. He's talking about how when he goes from a little boy, he wasn't happy. 7 years old, he's covered in blood. Mom's in jail, dirt under the nails, no food on the table. And then it says teleport. And he goes teleport. And it goes into like a different flow. Now he's 10 years old. He got no money, mama no money, daddy no money, family no money. The government's taking from me. I'm hungry. I need it. I turn on the television and envision the food they got. I can't eat it. I teleport. So you can just like imagine like the music video that's teleport. Now he's 8 years old in the basement with his dad's girlfriend. And you talk about he's getting molested and stuff. And it goes teleport. Mama got arrested. And then it goes teleport. Roaches, teleport, arrested, teleport. And then he said, I got no son. I'm 12 years old. I'm 11. I've got a gun. I got kicked out of school. Teleport. I'm on the run. Teleport. He's got the full teleport. And then it goes into the fact that now he's 28 and the garden's sold out and he teleports and now his son is born. Like, this whole album, like, you have to listen to that verse because all that happens in like 45 seconds. Just teleport. That's the whole idea of the song. And that's the best song on the album. It's one of the best Logic songs that's out there. Maybe this album isn't as consistent as it could be. I have it as a 9. Otherwise, the rest of it, power 10, creativity 10, lyrics 9, production 9. Great album. Logic did not disappoint with this. Teleport is one of the best songs of his career. I don't care because even the NFR podcast, they said that this fourth verse was one of the best in his career. Like I said, songs like Favela are really cool. Ghost in the Machine, really cool. Retrospect, really cool. All right, final album, and it's the one that's on the vinyl wall. It's the one that you know. It's Blue Lips. Blue Face, no. Blue Lips. This is a 9.2. The Logic album was a 9.2 as well. This one is an 8 in terms of consistency, but then a 10 for power, the best songs, 9 for creativity and story, 9 for lyrics, and a 10 for production. It's my favorite album of the year, and did I expect it? No, not exactly. Not when it came out. I knew I liked Schoolboy Q because of what I had heard on Oxymoron, what I had heard, but I never actually listened to a Schoolboy Q album from front to back or anything. I just had heard a lot of Studio from back in the day, or like I said, Collard Greens, because who hasn't heard Collard Greens? Crash. I knew I liked Schoolboy Q for sure. I liked him on all the different features he had as well. So I knew that, and then so heading into this album, Funny Guy is just okay. Pop, it's not for me. And it's not because of Rico Nasty. I just didn't like the production. But then Thank God for Me, that's a song where the snippet, the beat, it's just perfect. It's like this super chill chorus. It's like, thank God for me, blah, 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 blah. But then it goes into trap. Blue Slides is one of my favorite songs of the whole year because it's literally just jazz rap. It's just the most jazz-like instrumental you can think of. A piano, very light percussion. A piano that sounds like an old lady or an old grandma is just playing on the piano outside on the porch kind of thing. And that's what the a piano within a soul sample of a lady in the background. That's kind of what you get out of that. And it's why it's one of the best. Urine didn't care for. Lovebirds is great because it's a lot like Thank God for Me, where you have Lance Skywalker, who is a great lyricist, a great vocal kind of guy. You have just the super chill, laid back, kind of almost like Thank God for Me on the hook, but then it goes into heavier hitting verses. Movie with AZ, I like that. Cooties is okay. Ohio is great. Once again, Ohio is just a jazz instrumental where if you got Schoolboy Q and Freddie Gibbs on a jazz instrumental, you're going to get a great song. And then it goes into Foe, which is drum and bass with Schoolboy Q and Ab Soul. So it's like you go from a fantastic jazz, a 5 minute song of jazz rap with Schoolboy Q and Freddie Gibbs, and then you lead into a drum and bass song with Schoolboy Q and Ab Soul, and it's just fantastic. First is okay. Nunu is one of my favorites. It's quick. It's hard hitting. It feels like the winter, if that makes sense. And then Lost Time might be my favorite. It's hard to tell. There's so many great songs. But Lost Times, it's Alchemist produced. Maybe that's why it would be one of my favorites. But Jati is just a great job on the verse. If you want to know what the song sounds like, the music video for this was like the Disney, like Mickey Mouse animation kind of thing. So once again, it's another jazz song, which is why I love this album so much, because this album is literally jazz, rap, and trap. Germany 86, that's where he was born in the year. It's another jazz rap song, which is great. So, we were talking about like maybe 5 or 6 like super good songs. This album, it lacks a little bit of consistency just with a couple songs like First or Urine 101. So it's not my favorite. It's not for me. Pop, maybe not for me. But otherwise, I just can't deny that in terms of like songs that are in my top 20 listens of this year, I think Germany, Lost Times, Nunu, Foe, Ohio, Lovebirds, Blue Slides, Thank God for Me. I think all 7 of those are probably in the top 20. And I say probably, I know they are because like I said, I looked at my Receiptify. And I also did my Spotify Wrapped. So that's going to be that. So that's number 1 on my list is Schoolboy Q. So top 3, Schoolboy Q's album, Logic's album, and Eric the Architect's album. Of course, got Vince Staples, Matt Kami in there, Quadeca's in there, Don Tolliver's up in there, Amir Wolf is in there. Otherwise, like IDK, Kendrick Lamar, Jay Skis, and Kanye Vultures. That's my top 10. So if we just want to, we'll just recap real quick. First, Schoolboy Q, Blue Lips. Second, Logic's Ultra 85. Third, Eric the Architect, never been here before. Fourth is Vince Staples. Fifth is Matt Kami's album. Sixth is IDK's album. Seventh is Kendrick Lamar's album. Eighth is Boldy James' Penalty Leadership. Ninth is Jay Ski's album. 10th is Vultures Volume 1. 11th is Don Tolliver's album, Hearthstone Psycho. 12th is Freddie Gibbs, You Only Die Once. Amir Wolf is 13. Or Amir Wolf. Not Amir Wolf. Amir's Wolf is 13th. Quadeca Scrapyard is 14th. Might Delete Later from J. Cole, 15th. Corday is 16th. Tyler's Chromacopia is 17th. Death of Slim Shady is 18th. American Dream by 21 Savage, 19th. Boldy James and the Conductor Across the Tracks is 20th. Action Bronson's Baklava album, 21st. Ab Soul, Soulburger, 22nd. Boldy James and Harry Fraud's album, 23rd. Ransom's Lavish Misery, 24th. And Rome Street's Hatton Guard Hat Up, 25th. Yeah, like I said, we got Benny's Summer album in there. Big Sean's album, Mavi. Ransom and Conway's album was 33rd on my list. I know I mentioned that. Lupe Samurai 37, Still Don't Trust You 39th. I have these all ranked, by the way. G Herbo's album 44th. Bryson Tiller's project 45th. A Boogie's project 40th. This is just some options here. Westside Gun Prey 50th on the list. Kid Cudi's Inferno 53rd. It goes on. It literally goes on. I ranked like every album that I listened to this year, and I gave you the only correct top 25 list.